to the monthly meeting for Equity Working Group. I'm so glad you all could make it for today's meeting. So today we just have like very clear and crisp agenda. We'll be going on with our welcome and introductions. If we have any updates to share on the work front, if there's an interesting project that you're working, or if there is any interesting note that you'd like to share, please do so. Moving forward, we will have a fantastic presentation from the Midwest Building Decarbonization Coalition. We have Montre Moore with us, who will be representing Midwest BDC. And post that, we will be open for the Q&A sessions and some discussions, following which I'll have some closing notes to share. And I have some fun fact to share, but before that, I'll just take a moment to let anyone who is like the first time you're coming for this meeting, or even if you're attending this meeting the second time, but after a very long gap, if you'd like to introduce yourself to the team, it'll be great. Rafael, if you want to go ahead.
Yes, I heard that prompt. Thank you, Adisha. I'm Rafi Bright. I'm an associate with the Regulatory Assistance Project, RAP. I've been sitting in on AWHI's residential and commercial heat pump working groups for a while, and recently got re-added to being on this group as well. So I'm excited to be back.
Thank you, Rafael. And I also have my co-leads for the working group, Deepti Dutt and Maggie Kelly-Riggins with me. So just going to take a moment so that they can also say hi to the group. Deepti, over to you, and then Maggie can follow.
Thank you, Vidisha. Hello, everyone. It's very nice to see you all again. It's been a while since we discussed heat pump water heaters and equity group. I mean, 1 month feels like a really long time. So welcome, everyone, and really excited to listen to what Marnice has to say. Thank you. Montre has to say, I'm sorry. Maggie, do you want to go?
Yeah, Deepti, thanks, everyone. It's good to see everyone. This is Maggie Kelly-Riggins. I'm at the Southeast Energy Efficiency Alliance. Sorry, I'm a little bit late, but it's good to see new faces as well as some folks who have been around for the last couple of years. But we're super excited to hear more from the group of the Midwest Building Decarbonization Coalition today.
Thank you, Maggie. So I just have a little fun fact to share, or an interesting note, I would rather say. So last week, I had a meeting with Sandy Fisher-Lobby, who is also a member of this working group. And we were talking about equity in the workforce development sector. And there were a lot of aspects that she brought upon. And one of them that really caught my attention and imagination was the rebound effect. So the question is there a relationship between energy efficiency, energy savings, and behavioral approach? Let me give you an example. A friend of mine, she purchased a house in Florida. She purchased it from a previous owner who had put up solar panels. My friend is very happy. There are solar panels in the house. My utility bill is going to come down. So she's all set. And just as she expected, her utility bills are actually going down. Now, she's not really bothered about the air conditioning running all day, dishwasher being used frequently, washer and drying being used frequently, or any electrical appliances for that matter, because her utility bill is always down. So the question is, when it comes to consumer awareness about energy efficient products and the right to accessibility and equity, are we thinking about creating a certain set of awareness when it comes to having a responsible behavior towards energy efficiency? Now, this is a debatable concept. Is it really the magnitude of this? Is it really large enough to be worried? Or is it really negligible that you can just overlook it? It somewhat comes around like with the direct, indirect, and macroeconomic rebound effects, it comes around like 20 to 30%, which some feel may not have a major dent into the policies related to energy efficiency. But this is not something that we can overlook, or we should overlook. Now, this is a food for thought. If you're interested in learning more about it or reading more about it, here are some useful links, which I went through and I really enjoy the concept. Oh, by the way, it's also known as Jevons paradox because an English economist, William Stanley Jevons, was the first one who actually observed this phenomena. And this goes way back to somewhere 1856, when there was a lot of coal consumption in England. So he realized that technological advancements can lead to increasing efficiency of fuel, but also it leads to increase in the overconsumption of fuel. And that's when this whole rebound effect came into picture. If you already know about this and if you have any interesting note to share on this, please do so in the chat right now. Or probably you could also put me an email. I can share it to the group. And if this is something new to you, enjoy reading these resources. That's the fun fact from my side. And I would hope to continue this in the next meeting as well with something new. And for now, I'd like to invite Montre Moore from Midwest Building Decarbonization Coalition, who has some really interesting, insightful information to share from the recently sustainability summit that they had concluded. So, Montre, over to you, and good luck for that.
Awesome. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Again, thank you so much for your time, your effort, your energy. Thank you for all you do in the fight. I know often we in this environmental and climate justice space don't get the just due that we deserve. And so anytime I have the opportunity, I definitely like to lift us up to a higher degree. So again, thank you for allowing me to present our information for you. So if you can get the presentation up, and there's a lot of words here, but I'm just going to navigate us through it. And then I'm also going to make sure that this information is disseminated so you guys can kind of look through it in more depth and kind of understand exactly who we are, what we do, how we do it. And then hopefully one of the main things that we focus on as an organization is helping, organizations remove those silos. A lot of times we do great work and our heads are put down, but often we don't understand that this fight is too big for just one of us. And we are way more alike than we are different. And so we need to better understand that and utilize those resources effectively. So again, the Midwest Building Decarbonization is a eight-state organization focused on decarbonization of buildings. We are extremely unique in that space, being the first of its kind, an organization focused solely on building decarbonization, but at the same time, centering that focus in equity and ensuring that Black and Brown communities not only have a say in the transformation away from fossil fuels, but are at the front of those lines because we don't understand how impacted these communities are. And so we strive extremely hard to ensure that not only we educate, we empower, and we direct our energies in the most useful way. And so I am, as I mentioned earlier, now 3.5 weeks in my role as the new membership and engagement and outreach director. So this is my very first opportunity. So I'm super excited that you guys allowed me here. And so thank you for giving me that space. And so in 2024 rather, the organization became its own 501c3. Super excited about that. Where, like I said, we're a coalition across the 8 states that make up the Midwest. Prior to becoming its own 501c3, the Midwest BDC was housed within the Fresh Energy Camp as our physical sponsor. And so again, the work continues. COVID-19 was a huge hurdle for us, but in some ways it also brought us close together as an organization, allowing those that would not normally maybe be able to participate due to different barriers or hurdles in their lives to kind of alleviate some of those situations and bring this work front and center. So again, we're talking about equity and being at the center of our work, holding not only ourselves but others accountable to inclusion in a society where all can participate, all can prosper, all can have value and can reach their full potential. And so we recognize this work and we move to dismantle injustice. We work to remove systems and barriers that often prevent communities from even understanding climate change is real. It's no longer a debate. I think that was solved when our government finally put almost $800 billion behind this work. And so now we're even more excited and able to reach communities that we would not have been able to reach before. Our work is centered around the humanist principles, again, ensuring that inclusion and communities and just relationships are deeply rooted within the work. Again, because when you're coming into a community, it's often the education piece, which is the hardest, bringing those folks together. And so you have to build trust. You have to allow communities to understand one another and then understand how that plan can come together to move that community together as a whole. And so again, that is the spearhead of our work. And anytime we have the opportunity to share as this, we're extremely proud and extremely grateful. And so just a couple weeks back, we had our our sustainability renaissance. This was our third equity summit that was online. I am super excited to share with you that we are planning our fourth summit, but it will be held in person in the great state of Wisconsin, in the beautiful city of Milwaukee, where I do call home. And so again, it's a great opportunity to kind of engage on a greater level by being in person and having some of these great opportunities to interface with some of these speakers and workshop leaders to really better understand how do we shape the work and how do we also ensure that all communities are level set and can move through the work efficiently. So during the summit, we focus on a variety of different things. Again, coalition building and really understanding if we're going to censor equity at the heart of that, what does that look like? We had a phenomenal speaker, Patty DeLay. She presented from such a variety of perspectives, not only bringing information in from her childhood that she experienced, but also coupling that with her time in America as being a professional and being an immigrant. And you really have an opportunity, again, to not only understand your perspective, but understand the perspective of others and how the work actually layers on top of each other. And that's why I said earlier, when we really build that trust and build strong relationships, we see and understand that we are simply more in common than we think we are not. And together we can definitely make that fight, a fight worthwhile and a fight that we can win. And so I think that's hugely important. So yeah, coalition building is again one of the key technical assistance services, so to say, that we attempt to provide. Again, across our network, there are several online resources, classes, workshops, toolkits that we provide the network. They're all free of charge. That should relate with that. Our network, our coalition, our partnership is 100% free. All we simply ask is that you show up and be a part of the work. And that in itself provides us the opportunity to, again, build power within the coalition and allow folks to understand the work on a greater level, allow them to see themselves in the work, which is hugely important. Because sometimes we understand that, this pie in the sky, what is this? Is it real? Is it not? Sometimes you have to simply center it in what people know and understand and take away some of the big words and a lot of the adjectives away from some of the things where people simply get lost. And so again, that's why the purpose of our coalition building is to not only provide people with an education base, but with a power base so they can know and understand that after you receive this education, which is nice, now how do we take that to the next level? How do we implement that within our communities? And how do we make sure that, again, all communities are a part of this transformation? Like I said earlier, we're super excited that we now have a funding source, so to say that yes, we have a means, but now we have to connect the means with the ability. And the ability, first and foremost, is making sure that all communities, regardless of race, regardless of some of their historical disadvantages, we still have to work even that much harder to ensure that, again, power is built within. And that's the only real way we as an organization believe that, we have these huge goals by 2030, these huge goals by 2050. But if we're not truly reaching people on the ground level, reaching people, as they say, sometimes on the bottom, we'll never reach these goals. Because again, these are those that are most impacted. And also, these are those that lack the understanding truly what got us here in the first place. So again, that's why we know and understand how important it is to ensure that we build a huge, large tent. When I say a huge, large tent, we're talking about professionals from nearly every background, because if you think about it, what don't we touch? From healthcare to development to local and state government, all of these entities need to be a part of this conversation. And that's why we bring them in and we work on building trust. And that's, again, another key framework of the work we do. How do we create norms so we all know and understand, okay, this is the language that we're going to use. How do we track our performance and say, yes, this is something that is worthwhile. This is something I have put my time, effort, energy in, and I can see the goals clearly. And I know where I fit in that process. And again, that trust doesn't happen overnight. And I think often, sometimes we want to be a part of these large coalitions and we have this great ideals or concepts or projects in front of us, but that trust element is sometimes overlooked. And so therefore, again, when we're talking about those communities that are left behind, we're talking about those communities that are disenfranchised, and we're talking about those communities that are last to know and understand, there's a great deal of distrust. And so we have to work through that as well. And we have to go into that situation knowing and understanding that it's part of the solution. And so that's again why we love the opportunity to build relationships so trust can come pretty easily. Compassion, if we're not acting with compassion, what are we doing? I mean, this is our world, right? And so we know and understand that at the center of that is empathy, and knowing that again that we have to be able to reach people where they are, not tell them where they should be. I come from a planning association. I spent the last 5 years prior to coming to the Midwest BDC with the Southeastern Wisconsin Regional Planning Association in the state of Wisconsin. And one of the things I learned most is that communities want to be a part of the planning. They don't want you to show up and say, here's your plan, hope you like it, give us your feedback, and okay, thanks for coming out. That's not how communities feel associated, so to say. And so having that compassion and understanding that you may have to have multiple ways of explaining one thing, or you may have to have multiple ways of demonstrating or attempting to educate. And so that's why, again, we center that within the work so we don't get stuck. And not only do we not get stuck, we don't leave those behind. And that's primarily one of the main focuses that our leader talks about, is ensuring that, again, that if we're at this table talking about this work, we're being inclusive in our thoughts and ensuring how are we removing barriers rather than adding new ones to an already difficult place to navigate. So yeah, so internal and interpersonal relationships was a very interesting conversation from Stephanie Bowman. She shared different training techniques to really, again, bring individuals that are completely outside of the work. How do you, again, bring this big, huge conglomerate of an issue into a space that's formed and break it into small pieces so the average everyday individual can understand it, can not be scared of it, and can understand, again, how they fit within that larger picture. And I think that's crucial. Again, talking about disenfranchised communities and ensuring that we level set the playing field. Again, so this big 2050 marker that we have, it's not just a nice banner that we put in the sky, but something we can actually run through and run through in intensity. So these are just some slides that, again, outline what we think about as relates to the Jimenez principles. I don't have to go through those. Like I said, we're going to share this information with you. I'll be more than delighted to come back anytime where you think, Midwest BDC should be a part of the conversation and can add to it. And yeah, again, thank you for your time. Thank you for your energy. And always thank you for your effort. Any questions, comments, and concerns? Because I have time. And if I can't get an answer for you, I promise I'll circle back. Like I said, I'm still a little bit of a newbie, but I do have some great folks over here at the Midwest BDC that are simply experts in their field, and I'm happy to be associated with them. And yes, we would be delighted to always have an open line of communication. So again, those silos are removed and the work consistently is uplifted.
Thank you for the presentation, Montre. I think we do have a question It's from Monica. Is there any possibility of including Kansas in the Midwest Building Coalition?
Yes, I can tell you within the last 3 weeks or so that I've been in the role, I have heard that. Um, that is a conversation that's being discussed. Probably a few things have to happen prior to that, but I will definitely circle back with our executive director and find out what exactly that needs to look like. And just so we as a space can know and understand, like maybe that's a goal for us to put down for 6, 12 months. And if that is a goal, what do we need to do to hit that goal and make us successful in that space?
Please go ahead, Amy.
Thank you.
Hey, Amy.
Thanks, Montre. Hey, how are you doing? Thanks for being here and for sharing a little bit about it. The Equity Summit is always such a great event, and I feel like there are just so many perspectives that are shared, and I always learn a lot, and it was a really great event. So thanks for putting it on. I wanted to ask a question about the Midwest BDC. I thought maybe it would be useful if you reviewed what the working groups that Midwest BDC, what the different working groups are, and like what each of those are working on. I thought might be interesting to some of the people that are on this group too.
Oh, absolutely. And I was honestly shocked that I didn't see a slide on that. So real quick, off the top of my head, without my slide, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I believe, working groups. One is the membership working group, which I lead. Again, it's centering our members at the forefront of our work, allowing them to identify exactly what they want the coalition to look like and how the work is to be shaped, what type of trainings, what type of resources are being developed. Second is the housing working group that focuses on, again, with buildings being 40 to 43% of the cause of the emissions that we're currently seeing. What are we doing about that? How are we tackling this huge problem across our 8-state footprint? What's going on in each of these states? Because we know and understand every state is completely different. And how are those things such as tax credits and so on and so forth being disseminated across the state? Who's applying for them? And what does that process look like? There is a review process. In some states, it's every 4 years. In some states, it's every 2 years. And that working group goes through that work state by state and understanding those dates and those opportunities to ensure that not only Midwest BBC is making comments on those open public sessions, but also those local communities know and understand, which often they open a date today, close 2 days later, and it's here and gone. So that group does a great job of focusing on, again, what that space looks like. Then there's the regulatory group. The regulatory group focuses on, I believe, what's happening on the state and local level as relates to energy efficiency, what's going on with pricing as relates to different rate cases that are being brought up across the state and across the Midwest, so to say. So that group looks at, again, regulatory pricing, and the different organizations that escapes me at the top of my head, the different organizations that oversee each state's regulatory process. And so, yeah, and then there's the health group that focuses on health. I think they're the health, faith, and youth group all together. That's not what's on. Although they're still a work in progress. Like I said, we're only coming up on our 1-year anniversary. We're about 3 months out from that, but we're super excited for the traction that we have been able to build. But yes, that faith, youth, and something else we just
Equity.
equity.
Is it equity?
Well, that's a whole thing. It's so many different things that we're kind of trying to figure out all at the same time. So one of the things that I have been challenged with moving in the role is how do I define, some of these spaces, and how do we really bring that work a little bit tighter together? So yes, it's fresh off the press that we are definitely looking at all of our working groups to ensure, again, as we move the work forward, it makes sense. And we're not simply doing what we think is best, we're really touching and tapping to our members and their wants, their desires, their needs to ensure, again, that the work moves.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for that question.
Yeah, thanks for summarizing some of the working groups, because I think it's good for the folks in this group to understand kind of the different groups that you all have and how they're kind of member organized. I know you're their staff now to like help lead it, but it's really like trying to get the pulse of the members and what their interests are in some of this and how that can move forward. So it's a good reminder. So thanks, Montre. Appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Thank you,
And
Amy.
yes, absolutely member-led. I was a member of the coalition for almost 2 years before I transitioned over to staff. So I have kind of that both sides of the ledger experience. And so hopefully, yes, being in this position now, it will continue, even though I'm staff, to be member-led.
That's wonderful to know. Montre, I just have one question, and I welcome anyone from the group to add on to this. I've been trying to understand if there has been any strategies to break through structural dynamics or this sort of stereotypical hierarchical structures we have, and to make decision making more inclusive. Was there any conversation that came up during this summit, which sort of could have been like more of a solution, or is it something that you are looking forward to working in the future?
Honestly, that's something that I can say I'm looking forward to working on in the future. Because it really truly starts at the local level. And if we're not providing those grassroots organizations, those baseline communities with the knowledge, the information, the resources to even get any traction, it's really a fight that we can't win. And so I think we have to really redefine again who's not in the room. That's again one of my biggest challenges I think in the role. Understanding who's not having these conversations and how do we reach them, and how do we also make it relevant not only to them, to their lives, to their work, to their communities. And so, yeah, that is again a work in progress. But I think again, great minds come together. Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. Does anyone else have any questions to ask? Yes, Joe, please go ahead.
I really appreciate your presentation, and it's making me think a lot. Because local level grassroots stuff is great, but from my position, I work at a national lab, and I'm developing a technology that I think has really low energy burden. It's hard to start from the local grassroots because we always start from the nation and kind of work our way down, if that makes sense, when we're thinking about technologies and stuff. It's easier to first think about the average performance, then the local performance, then start thinking about the utility programs and all that other kind of stuff at the local level. But what we want to do at some point is pilot. So my question is, how would you think it would be best to approach these grassroots communities for potential pilots with technologies that reduce energy burden?
Interesting question. Well, for me, I found myself in a lot of different arenas over my environmental and climate justice career that spans about 15 years now. But lowest hanging fruit for me as relates to access to communities is the faith base. Um, again, because they have their own space, they have their own audience, they meet on a regular basis, and they're a trusted member of the community. So right now, I'm thinking through what does it look like for a membership campaign for the organization, like SBDC. How do we want to look at that over the next, 6 months to a year? And immediately my thought was, okay, let's go back to the faith base because again, lowest hanging fruit. So that's kind of how I would shape my thought around that and kind of see what opportunities to connect them to this technology. And because they may want to have access, but again, there may be an education barrier, there may be a financial barrier, there may be blah, blah, blah. How do you remove those barriers and at the same time, build trust and bring them into the fold? Would kind of be my strategy.
Okay, thank you for your thoughts on that. I agree, trust is critical. In my past life, I was a Peace Corps volunteer, and I tried to have sustainable projects in different countries. Well, first with Engineers Without Borders, and then as Peace Corps, and it's not easy to build trust. So I appreciate that complexity.
Yeah. Thank you again for the question.
Thank you, Joe. I just wanted to build on to that one. So, with this whole summit and the learnings that you have had from the summit, you have come up across you have come up with all these points, like what is that we need to look forward. Have you also sort of come across any discussion that led up to what could be the way to actually come up with these solutions? Like, for example, how do we approach this entire concept of trust building and having that compassionate solidarity when we are working in a mutual group? And because it's not just about inclusion, it's also about having a sense of belonging. So is there something that you want to talk about that?
Well, again, I can say that that work is left to the members, and that work is uplifted within those equity working groups and also within the membership working groups. Because again, we don't want to say as an organization, here you go, or here's a menu of options that you have, tell us which one you want. We want to empower these individuals, we want to empower these communities, we want to empower these organizations to feel a part of the process and to come up with a solution on their own. And then we as an organization navigate them through what those checkpoints look like, what goals look like, what strategic planning looks like, what reaching communities on all scale could potentially look like. And so, yeah, that's kind of a framework that we currently have and that we're building out.
Thank you, Montre. Yes, Amy, please go ahead with the next question.
I'd add that, I appreciate, Montre, your recognition that it really is up to the members to kind of work together. But what I think the Midwest BDC does really well is create space for us to develop that trust, the space and time to reflect on our community's norms and values and take time for icebreakers and ways to develop relationships so that we have some trust amongst each other and can come up with collaborative solutions that as together are bigger than only one could do on its own. So I applaud the Midwest BDC for the time and space that is afforded in every meeting to help develop those trusted relationships, because it is about that. And then the guidance of staff like you to really help drive towards our collective objectives. So thank you to the Midwest BDC for really structuring each and every meeting in a way that kind of delivers that opportunity.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Amy. Does anyone have any other questions to ask? Thank you. Maggie and Dipti, would you like to add some closing notes to the presentation?
I certainly can. DT, I don't know if you have anything you want to add first.
No, Maggie, you go ahead. I can follow you. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I first want to say thanks, Montre, and to Midwest Building Decarb. I had the pleasure of actually presenting with Marnice, or moderating Marnice's presentation at the Getting to Zero forum earlier this year. And Getting to Zero week is or Zero Buildings Week. I forget exactly the name. Is just a week or two away now. But I think that the work that y'all are doing is so absolutely critical. And I get curious, in addition to what some people asked today, about what does this look like for us to think about empowering other regions and other coalition building efforts throughout the country. I know that you said, we're adding Kansas or we're looking at what that looks like, but thinking about my folks from the South and the US islands, I know some folks who are in the Southwest or maybe in the Northwest, kind of really thinking about what does it look like to build this type of coalition and support this type of coalition building that might already be happening in our states and localities, quite the way that y'all do. So thank you so much for presenting. Deepti, over to you.
Thank you, Maggie. Yeah, I agree. It's very inspiring to see what you do in Midwest. And I was also thinking about like what can we do in the Northeast that can follow uh, similar style, but that is more localized. And as Joe mentioned, it is not easy to connect to the local people unless you are a local there. You understand what a community is going through when you are with them, rather than like sitting and reading papers about them. So it's a great thing, and it's amazing that we are able to be a bridge between what is available and what is happening at grassroots level. And I think there's more bridge building that's required. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you so much for your thoughts, Maggie and Dipti. That was like really incredible. Thank you so much, Montre, for the presentation, and we really enjoyed this whole discussion. And we look forward to more work. And also, I think you're putting together some of the points for the summit. So we look forward to a report or a white paper from the summit. Thanks once again. And I would just like to sort of wrap up the meeting. But before that, I do realize that I forgot to ask everyone if you have any interesting note to share, if you're working on any interesting project, anything upcoming, or is there anything interesting that you would like to share? I did share my part. So over to you. Does anyone has any interesting piece to share? Sure, Joe, go ahead.
Well, my question kind of leaded into this update, but next, I should say pretty much starting as soon as possible, we're starting to try to find pilot sites where we can pre-monitor cold water, hot water, and drain temperature and all the flows. So I'm just reaching out to anybody want to connect me to folks that have maybe about a 20-unit multifamily complex. And one of the things that makes it a unicorn is we're hoping to have easy access to drain stacks towards the basement area. So if we find that unicorn, we can only really do one site, but we need to find it, and we want to start monitoring soon before we would then install. The winter data is the most important, so we're hoping to find places where we can move fast and build trust quickly that we're not going to come goof up their water heating system. So we had an intern that's helped develop some flyers for community meetings and a couple surveys for the residents and the building owners and the utilities in the area. So we're thinking about how to get that groundswell going forward, but we haven't done too much with it yet. So any help is appreciated from the group.
Sure, Joe. I'll pass on the word. And if anything comes up, we'll definitely share it with you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for that, Joe. Anyone else? Any interesting update to share? Okay, so I'll just go on ahead with the closing notes. A quick update and happy news. We do have now the equity working group added to the AWHI joining page. So if you just go to the joining page and you want to spread the word, share it across your network, you can actually do so. And now you can join the equity working group. You will get the updates about the meetings, webinars, or anything that is related to equity working group. So it's the information is on the slide. You can actually hover to the link and it will take you to the page. Webinar is slated for 2nd of October. We are finalizing on the panelist. We do have to confirm panelist. We would be having more information to share in the next meeting on 25th September. So yes, please block the date. I'll be sharing the invite pretty soon. It will be on 25th September. We'll have more information in the upcoming emails. And that's it from my side for the closing updates. If you'd like to share anything on your side, you're most welcome to do so. Dipti, would you like to add on anything to this?
Oh, I'm good actually. Thank you very much. And I'm actually going to be at the Energy Star Partners and Products meeting from 17 to 19 September. So if any one of you are attending, I'm looking forward to seeing you there.
Woohoo! Maggie, do you want to add on to anything to this?
No, I think that summarizes it.
Sure. Thank you so much. So thank you everyone for attending the meeting today. I'll be following up with an email regarding the slides and the video recording of this meeting. And also I'll be sharing in the PowerPoint presentation from Midwest PDC. If you need any, if you want to share any other interesting piece of information, you can always send me an email. I'll forward with the group. And I encourage you all to, if you come up with something interesting or a fun fact you'd like to share in the next meeting, we can definitely include that section. So thank you everyone for joining in today. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.